We will now start the panel which is called Partnerships for Sustainability. And I'm very happy and delighted to inform you that Shri Charulata Somal, IAS officer and Managing Director of KUIFDC, which is Karnataka Urban Infrastructure Finance and Development Corporation, who is also the chief guest for today, will be joined by Shri Dheeraj Valli, who was previously heading the sales function in Bosch, and now he's a consultant. And we will also have Mr. Prashant Varadaraj, who is leading the innovation initiatives from the Consulate of Denmark. And they have some very interesting partnerships that they have started, which is called a Twin City Partnership with the Tumkuru Smart City and the city of Aalborg in Denmark. So we will hear how they got this partnership going, what do they want to do in this partnership. And so this panel is like a fireside discussion, so people will be discussing and I will ask some questions to just start the conversation, and then we will throw the floor open to the audience so you can ask some questions. So please keep your thinking hat on and ask some good questions, and questions which can enable more partnerships and enable more collaboration. Because it's in collaboration and in partnerships that we can build a better future and a more sustainable future. A panel which is more of a fireside conversation or a discussion. I am happy once again to announce that we have with us the Managing Director of KUI FDC, which is the Karnataka Urban Infrastructure Finance Development Corporation. Now, KUI FDC is the nodal agency that coordinates all the smart city projects for Karnataka. And so all the proposals to build control centers, to build solutions, go up to KUI FDC, get approval, and then they are implemented across the different cities. So we have the MD here. Like I said before, she was very interested to also listen and participate. And so she was listening to the previous panel, and she told me that she will be here till lunch. So she will also be there, that some of you can meet her during lunch. Apart from that, on the panel we have Shri Dheeraj Valli, who was with Bosch and is still an advisor. He was instrumental in setting up the German Smart City Consortium. So we will ask from him his experience of setting up this kind of consortia, how easy it is, how difficult it is, because we want more people to look and enable partnerships. And then we have Mr. Prashant Varadaraj, who is from the Innovation Center of the Consulate of Denmark in Bangalore. And they have a very interesting partnership which they have set up. It's a twin city agreement with the smart city of Tumkuru and the city of Aalborg in Denmark. And so we will listen and learn from him how this came about and what were the challenges. Was it easy? Was it difficult? This panel is more like a fireside and free moving discussion. After initially having some discussion, we will open the floor for some questions. Here is where I need all of your help. So please wear your thinking hats on. I know not physical one. One gentleman had a hat actually. Yeah, I think so. But the rest, yeah. Thank you. He's from Germany, so he has a hat. But the others, wear your virtual hat. And please ask questions that are enabling movement towards partnership. So basically I'm saying ask questions that can enable and remove roadblocks to partnership. So that's why I'm asking you to think before you ask the questions. Of course, the same ground rules apply. We will ask questions and discuss and deliberate with a positive frame of mind. We know there is a lot of things to be done, but having said that, the first step means the journey has begun, and we intend to start many first steps and many small steps, and eventually we will know that we are on a great journey together. So once again, I would like all of you to give a big round of applause as I welcome Shri Dheeraj Valli, Ms. Charulata Somal, MD of KUI FDC, and Prashant Varadaraj from the Danish consul. Sir, can you escort Madam and where is Prashant? Yes, yes. Three of you please come to the stage. Okay, so thank you once again, and it's nice to have all of you. I would like to start first with a round of introduction, because we don't do that formal long introduction. So please say in 1 or 2 minutes how you fill in the gap in sustainability and what your roles are. I would like to ask Madam to start, so that the audience also gets a clear perspective of what all things you control or you can influence for the sustainable future of our cities.
Very good morning to everyone present here. I've already been introduced. I'm the Managing Director of the Karnataka Urban Infrastructure Development and Finance Corporation. So the name itself implies my two key roles. One is infrastructure development and the other is as a financing agency for the urban local bodies in the state of Karnataka. KUIDFC is also the state mission for smart cities in the state of Karnataka. We have 7 smart cities. Apart from smart cities, we are also working on various infrastructure projects and research projects and other projects in water supply, underground drainage, waste management, and many such others through KUIDFC with many of the urban local bodies in the state of Karnataka.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, very good morning to everyone on the room here, and welcome to the event. Just a few words about myself. I work for the Consulate General of Denmark, in particular the Innovation Center. Now, the Innovation Center of Denmark is special because we have got just 8 centers of that globally, right? And one of those 8 is in Bangalore. So that says volumes about the work which is going on in Bangalore and the sort of innovation ecosystem which has been built around here. And the key role what we play, and if you see our charter for existence or the reason why we exist, is to ensure that we can engage the Danish ecosystem with the Indian ecosystem. That's what we do, nothing more, nothing less. And we hope to continue the work which we are doing, right? The idea is to engage the whole ecosystem across academia and industry together. Thank you.
Thank you, Prashant. And Dheeraj sir.
Thanks, Jose, first of all, for having me here. Hello, my friends on the stage. And good morning, everybody. Hope you are feeling good and looking forward to having informative sessions as we proceed ahead. About myself, very briefly, I have been working with in the corporate with Philips and then Bosch in the management cadre, and left Bosch about 1.5 years back, and now I'm independently working on assignments which I like, so advising also Bosch and couple of social organizations. So that's very briefly about myself. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I will ask you some other specific questions later. So I would like to start with Charulata ma'am. All of us are aware of the really ambitious goal that our Prime Minister set up some time ago, which is the 100 Smart Cities project. And this landscape has been evolving because it was a new and very novel, innovative thing that was set up. And I want to ask you, ma'am, what has happened in that landscape over the last years? And I'm getting a feeling that there is a new enthusiasm and vigor now for this 100 Smart Cities initiative. So what is your feeling from the ground and from all your work? What is the direction?
So if you look at the focus or the limelight on urban development in our country, it started actually a few decades back. And if you look at the last decade, we had the JNN URM, which had a lot of focus on various sorts of infrastructure development. We've also had various states taking up various projects in coordination with multilateral agencies. However, coming specifically to smart cities, which was launched in 2015, it has given a very focused direction in two specific areas. The first is that the smart city works through the area-based development concept, where in each city you identify a particular island, we'll call it an island in that city, where you look at upgrading and retrofitting the various infrastructure within the city. And what this has done is that now a lot of people are asking questions with respect to why is my area not selected? When is my area going to be selected? When are we going to get these facilities? So these areas that we are developing in many of our smart cities have become lighthouses, and they have become these islands of aspirations where in a smaller area we are able to take up various infrastructure upgrade, and not just core infrastructure. We are also doing a lot of public spaces. So we are working on public spaces. We are also working on assets of other departments. So say something like sports stadiums, something like schools, something like hospitals, in the name of say smart health or education. So we've just not limited ourselves to those few three or four core functions of an urban local body. We've expanded beyond that. So it has resulted in a lot of people now thinking and asking these questions and actually having aspirations for their particular areas and their cities. The second aspect, I think, which has also been which has been a game changer, and I'm sure many of here on the stage and in the audience will also agree, is we have this concept called the integrated command and control centers. And the push that ICT has gotten to solve our problems or to leverage ICT for various of our functions, it has given it a very focused push. And there are many cities who are now doing it, and there have been hits, there have been misses, but the talk of that has started. And the cities have started thinking that if I'm talking about technology, what do I need technology for? How do I use the technology? And even within the technology players, many of them are now coming up with various solutions that will cater to these needs. So this is again a very dynamic and an evolving sector. And I see a lot of improvement coming in the years to come, and the stage has just been set for this. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I think it's really nice she gave us this overview. As you do something in India, more people are asking, do it also here, do it also there, do it also there. So that's a good thing. We want more, and that means growth, that means more possibilities for the future. So at this point, I want to switch to Prashant, because, I'm really surprised that somehow you guys managed to get one city far away in Denmark, get connected to another city in our own Karnataka. And, this is a kind of a sister city concept. Can you just give, for the benefit of our audience, an overview of basically what this is and what does it entail? Of course, later I will ask you some more questions around that. So just for us to understand, what do you mean by sister city, and what exactly is this thing that you have with Tumkuru?
Sure. And the sister city concept basically means that you have two cities which engage in knowledge sharing, right? So basically the idea is to share knowledge across cities, because every city has got its own strengths and own weaknesses, and it sometimes helps if you can learn from the experiences of others. For instance, Aalborg, the city in North Jutland part of Denmark, is quite strong in, for example, radio tech. It's quite strong in the way you do waste management, quite strong in the way you do water management, stuff like that. And they've been doing it for some time now. So it's been one of the better managed cities in Denmark, right? And if you come back to Tumkur, you find that the scale is just so humongous. For example, what is a pilot project in India would probably be a full project in Denmark, in Aalborg. Just that Denmark has got a population, Aalborg has got a population of probably 350,000 odd people, right? So it gives us an opportunity to learn how projects can scale, and hopefully it also gives Tumkur a chance to learn how particular tech pieces which have been in work for some time. Ma'am just touched on the technology pieces. Is that how technology pieces actually are, it's actually been running for some time, so it's already a pilot kind of stuff which has already happened. So see if similar ones or probably versions of it can be scaled further. So that was the generic idea. And over the last 2 months, since we have signed the project, we have probably graduated down to 3 or 4 sectors where we want to focus our energies on. These were predominantly technology, waste management, renewable energy, and education. So these are the 4 sectors which have been identified as priority areas for the collaboration. Yeah, thank you.
Excellent, thank you. So down the line, I will ask you a little bit more, and we will touch at some of the aspects. Dheeraj sir, from what I know, and from the time we started interacting some time ago, you had done something a bit, let's say, crazy and eccentric, which is bring together different companies. Each of them have their own interests, for example, and put them all in a room and create a consortium. Can you just give us some idea of, why this was done, and how this idea came about? Because usually every company is competing also, each one looking out for their own P&L, their own targets, quarterly numbers. And so to even suggest this idea and to bring them, I mean, how did this evolve?
Actually, I'll be failing in my duty if I take the credit for this. I should not do that at all, because, when the smart city mission about which Charu talked about, when it was launched in 2015, month of June, I think without any doubt, without any exaggeration, this is, according to my own personal experience, one of the very well conceived mission projects by Government of India. What they have done is, I'm stepping one or two steps back before I can answer your question. So I'll take maybe 2 minutes more to set it in context. When the mission project, Smart Cities mission project was launched, it had everything in it, all the so-called ingredients, masala in it. It was a complete package, but it was a guideline, a complete comprehensive framework, and to guide each city, which was, you must be knowing the process of competition, how the 100 smart cities were selected. I don't want to get into all that. So for each city to go the smart city path, they had the complete information, set of information available from Government of India. But this guideline, this book, big book, if I may call it so, did not tell a city what they're supposed to do. Each city has its own character. So each city has decided now what they want to do to fulfill the aspirations of the citizens of that city. So a lot of surveys were done, a lot of citizen engagement was gone through in each city, in most of the cities, before each city had a mission for itself. Having said that, from this point, I just want to jump to what, Jose, you are asking me. So the cities alone are like, islands. And every city will have its own level of maturity in terms of smartness. And smartness is not a destination, I heard somebody saying, it is a journey, A city will become smart in the true sense over a period of time. It could take a couple of decades before it can transform itself and can compare to UK or Belgium or, California or any other country in America or Europe. CII, Confederation of Indian Industries, took a very, very important step of forming National Mission on Smart Cities. And it was CII who, brought in this concept of partnership for sustainable cities. You call it partnership or MOU. So it was CII who basically came out with the idea of forming these consortiums or consortia. And as a result of which, there were not one, but not two, more than 5, 6, 7 consortiums which actually got formed. So what happened was, for example, Germany. So there was a German consortium about which you asked me, Jose. So there was a consortium, German consortium, there was an American consortium, there was a Spanish consortium, there was a Japanese consortium, so on and so forth. Talking about the German consortium, which I was involved in because I worked for a German company called Bosch. So it was CII who took the initiative, and with CII's involvement, initiative, this German consortium was formed, comprising of various companies like Siemens, Bosch, Deutsche Bank, Atos, Shapoorji Pallonji, because we also needed a company who can, be a infrastructure specialist, a company like L&T. So we brought in Shapoorji into the consortium. So this way, a consortium, a kind of a complete consortium was formed of these 6, 7 companies who, it was in the form of a formal MOU with all these partners, with CII, and then the journey began. The objective was to help, support cities in project planning, in capacity development, helping them to learn about new concepts, new technologies, etc., etc. And it all was done by way of having workshops with various cities. So for now, since it's getting very, very long, I would like to pause for a moment so that we can have continuity.
Thank you, thank you. You are very historically correct, no? So you started from, the perfect beginning. So thank you. That gives us an understanding of, how it started and where we reached. You also touched upon sustainability and smartness. So now I want to just go in the direction of sustainability. So back to you, ma'am. I was seeing that you had taken some very amazing initiatives when you were in Shimoga, linking sustainability and bringing some solutions that did something very unique with the drainage system, Somehow we have this thing that, whenever there's a drain or there's, let's say kachada somewhere, then we look the other way. But it was, because I read about this and I was quite excited that you did something unique in this project. So can you tell us a little bit about what you did there? Because that was something at one city level where you took up a sustainability angle to solve a eyesore in the city or a problem area in the city.
So just as Mr. Wali had earlier said that he can hardly take credit for some of the initiatives that you mentioned earlier, in the context of Shimoga also, it would not be right for me to say it has been something started by me, because I had predecessors who put certain projects and certain thoughts in place. And for the 1 year or for the 13 odd months that I was there as a manager where I was giving it the direction that had been given, so we continue the focus. And more than me, it is also my team, my team of engineers, team of urban planners, my team in the city corporation, and at the district level, many others, because of which something like this becomes possible. So, we are just one small aspect in a larger scheme, and we do our best in our limited individual capacity. But coming again to Shimoga in terms of certain sustainability related initiatives, we have something called the solar canal top, whereon about 9 odd kilometers of the canal going through the city, there was a project that was conceptualized, and again not by me, that has been something that had been conceptualized much earlier. We just continued giving it the push and direction, is whether we can have we can tap solar for that, and there will be many other benefits that we get out of that. So that we thought in the public-private partnership mode. And that project is still out there for tender. It has still, it's not concluded yet, but again, it's a step in the right direction that has been taken. And talking about solar initiatives, not just Shimoga, but many other smart cities in Karnataka have also taken similar initiatives, whether it is, going for solar canal top, whether it is, canal top is of course only Shimoga, solar rooftop, whether it is with respect to LED lighting, where we have energy savings. So we are still in the beginning of the curve to speak about sustainability, but there are a lot of efforts that are being made in that particular direction. And again, it's a continuous effort that we are making, where we can come up with we can come up with more sustainable initiatives. Are we talking about urban greenery today? Are we talking about landscaping today? How are we talking about urban greenery in our cities? Is it something that is uniform? Are we tapping into the local knowledge and the resources? Is another question that we had started asking in Shimoga, given that we had availability of land and space and projects in the pipeline. So this is some of the things that we've done in Shimoga.
Okay. I just wanted to say, if some of you Google, you will find this, some journalist has written a very good article, how they converted these open canals, closed them, and then put solar rooftop on top. I'm happy that still the tender is out. I also want to inform our audience that our conference is live streamed. So on the Facebook page of the forum, if you go, you will find whatever we are saying is live. So of course, for the consulates who are advisory board in the TIA summit, please share this information. There's a very interesting sustainability linked project. So if somebody wants to give funding or to partner, the team of Madam will be available to point them in the right direction. Thank you very much, because sustainability is something that will get more and more traction in the coming years. It's something that we have to do because there is only planet A and there is no plan B or planet B. Till it happens, we have to take care. Back to you, Prashant, because, as you did this, I know that you have to convince the stakeholders in Denmark, you have to convince the stakeholders in Tumkuru, and bring them all together on the same page. Was it difficult? Was it easy? What happened? Do you recall? Just share a few examples of what happened.
Like someone said, was both tough and both were quite easy. So I can't really comment on the difficulty levels. But one thing I just want to say, there was a engagement at top levels on all sides, right? For example, I remember Freddie, our ambassador, saying that India was created by centuries, but this century will be created by India. So there is definitely.
Let's give a big hand. That's a very interesting. This century will be created by India. Yes, thank you.
So there is definitely a push towards that. There is a push from the highest levels in Denmark to have a better engagement. Last 3 years have been a paradigm difference from what the relations which we had with India probably last 50 years back, right? So that has been what has been good. What has also worked for us, and the reason why we could succeed in a relatively short period of time, was because of two Danish values: trust and courage, right? Generally, unlike, let's say, the other parts of the world, we don't lawyer up in many cases. So it's mostly we trust people and we try to work with them. In many cases it works, and which is also a symbol of the fact that it works. And also to an extent courage, because when you go into a project like this, you don't know what to expect. You basically learn to fly a plane while building the plane, right? So you try to figure it out as you go along, and that requires a bit of courage. And so I think these are the two things which helped us figure it out, and we're still figuring it out, because obviously MOU is only the first step in a process, and we'll be doing an injustice to everyone if we don't take it to a proper conclusion or take it to a much bigger platform.
Excellent. I'm really happy, because once you put down on paper what you want to do, it's a commitment. Of course, some others would say there are a lot of papers that we do in India, but from what he's saying, it's very clear that there was commitment on the top level in both sides. And when this commitment is seen, it's put on paper, I'm sure that things will move on. And I was meeting them yesterday also in their office, and I have been told that they will be very glad to update us in November when we have our next summit, the TIA summit, of what are the key things that have been achieved and what are the broad outlines. So thank you, Prashant. I think
Jose, can I interrupt?
Yes, sure, sure.
I hope I'm not impolite,
Yeah.
but I have a bad habit of going one step back.
Yeah.
So in this case also, just, to put things in context, I'm just saying it from my experience, since I had this opportunity to work in the domain of smart cities. Basically, as I saw that there were three kinds of interventions. One was what Denmark did with Tumakuru. In fact, I had this great opportunity to be involved in this whole process. So I would call this as the third kind of intervention or initiative which was taken by a smart city with another smart city of Aalborg in this case. The second initiative, I would say, was what I talked about earlier. CII initiated this partnership amongst, between smart cities of India and countries. Germany supporting smart cities in India, America forming a consortium and supporting smart cities in India. And the first initiative was also by the Government of India themselves. As far as I remember, Government of India at the level of PM got involved and had a MOU with UK, for example, towards sustainable development of smart cities. Then, if I remember correct, I think the PM was also involved in having a MOU with Japan for Varanasi, on lines of Kyoto city, to have it developed as a heritage city. I just thought I'll add this piece of
super.
information.
Thank you, thank you. So basically there are enough models, some are faster, some are slower, some are not yet taken off, but there is enough there to see which model fits each stakeholder best. Ma'am, I want to come back to you and ask about this multi-stakeholder approach. Because when you are in this role of KUIF DC, let's say, it's like this umbrella organization. You have multiple cities. Within those cities, you have multiple organizations, agencies. And to get some things done, you need to cut across these different departments, different divisions. And I know it's a bit challenging. Can you share, for the benefit of our audience, maybe a few challenges or some example of how something was fixed so things moved faster, or you have any opinions about this structure that's in place and how to manage it, maneuver it. It's also keeping in mind that many of our international cities, probably investment firms, sustainability linked funds, want to know that we are ready to work across structures so that the final outcome and results are there.
So the devil is always in the details, and my cities, rather than KUIDFC, it's been a real challenge for the managing directors of the smart cities at the level of the city to coordinate. And just to put it in perspective, as I had mentioned earlier, that in the context of smart cities, now there are two levels of coordination that we speak about. One will be where in the smart city project, we have taken up projects for assets of other departments. So for instance, for youth services, we would be doing development of a stadium. For education, we are taking something called smart education. We're taking up development of Anganwadis in some of the cities. We have taken up certain health initiatives. Solar canal top, I had the irrigation department that I needed to work with. So where this interdepartment coordination is needed, the role of the city, the MDs at the level of the city, the deputy commissioners, the chairman of the board who are senior IS officers, secretaries, and KUIDFC, our principal secretary, urban development department, it has been very instrumental, where they have, when it has not been resolved at one level, it has been escalated, and there has been a lot of push and effort from our principal secretary, our chief secretary, to get many of the projects moving. So one example would be the solar canal top Shimoga that I spoke about previously. When I was in Shimoga, it was because of the efforts of the team at KUIDFC and our principal secretary, Mr. Parvez, and the chief secretary that we were able to get some of the permissions through sooner than later. This is one level of coordination that we have. The second is the interagency coordination which is needed at the level of the city when we are executing a particular project. So this is an example that that I speak about at almost every forum when I speak about interagency coordination, is taking the example of a smart road. So, and in this again, I'll take the example of one particular stretch in Shimoga, which is a 3-kilometer stretch, which is a national highway. So the carriageway has been done by the national highway. The drains have to be done by the national highway. The footpath has to be done by the smart city. We have a few encroachments on either sides for the development of the footpaths. When I talk about taking utilities, because when we talk about smart roads, we are actually talking about ducting our utilities, taking our utilities underground. I'm dealing with, electric cables where I have to bring them down. I also have an industrial line because that corridor is next to an industrial area and it is also next to an APMC. So I also have a dedicated industrial electric line that is going through that. Then I also have water supply work in that. I also have underground drainage work in that. I also have, optic fibers and various other cables. Then I also want to do a bicycle lane in that. And all of these is projects that are going on or at different levels. So what happens is that it becomes very difficult when each department has its own constraints when they do a particular project, because they will have their own dedicated time period. They cannot make their contractors wait, just as we cannot make our contractors wait. So this has been a huge challenge, and it is an ongoing challenge, where we have to continuously at the level of the city call all of these agencies together, ensure that they are speaking with each other, that they understand what the work is, they understand the work that is going on, and in the interest of each other's project, they are able to prioritize those areas where they are able to complete, say, particular works in time. So I wouldn't say that we have been completely successful. It is just that it is something that we have to do continuously and we cannot let go of. So there is no one solution and then it solves the problem. It is on an ongoing basis. There are a few hits and misses, but we have to keep on working towards this as the projects across agencies are being implemented. So these are some of the challenges that are still challenges out there, and if anyone has happy and easy solutions, we'd love to look at some of that. So these are some of the challenges at the level of department, so that is the inter-department coordination, and at the level of agencies which are operating various projects at the city.
Thank you. Let's give a big round of applause, because you see, she has been very frank, while it would tempt one to say that, we have all the solutions. She has outlined that just even a simple road is not as simple as it sounds, and getting everybody on board is really a challenge. Thank you, ma'am, for that very frank and open sharing. And of course, ma'am said she's here till lunch, so some of you want to meet her quickly. But I would suggest that you should do quick, because then there's a queue of line, so speak in, like let's say, 10-second elevator pitch, give your card, and then write to her. I would say I found her very, very interested when I met her, and she's really looking to transform, at least while she's there, the Karnataka Smart Cities, and very open to ideas, and we are so happy that she's with us. I want to come back again to you, ma'am, because like they did this Tumkuru sister city concept, are other smart cities of Karnataka also willing to do this? And do you think it's a good idea to go in this direction, and do you, will the other consulates that are here, they would like to know whether they should also try this approach. What do you have to say about?
So speaking on behalf of the smart cities and on behalf of KUIDFC, we are very happy and we are very keen on taking up sister city concept forward, because if we look at all, and I don't want my partnerships or my tie-ups to be limited to just my 7 smart cities, because I have 10 corporations. In Karnataka, we have 10 corporations and 1 BBMP. So say for instance, a city like Mysore does not necessarily have the smart city tag, but there are great opportunities for collaboration. Similarly, for a city like Bijapur, which has huge tourism potential, and it is one of the only hydraulic cities in the world because it is built up on a Karez system. Then a city like Gulbarga, which could be the epicenter of development in the Hyderabad, Karnataka region, city like Bellary. So these are also city corporations that are there. So we are not limited only to the smart cities. We would like all of our cities to benefit from various collaborations. We are also very happy to have, so we are, just last week, KUIDFC signed a letter of intent with the 2000 Watt Smart City Association, which focuses on carbon neutral cities. And we've also been in talks with some of the consulates, because we had met some of them when we had the Karnataka Cities Investors Meet 2 weeks back, and then we also had Municipalica subsequently. So we have started initiating a lot of this talk. We are very happy to take up collaborations forward where there is knowledge sharing. Especially given that in today's context, and even if we look at the 4 subjects that are the subjects, these are subjects that are still, if these are areas that are still evolving. And I would like, my organization and my teams in the cities to take the benefit of that, and for there to be knowledge sharing, because we can always share experiences with respect to what works or what doesn't work, what may be the challenges. We can also open the gates to various cities, that if there is anyone who's interested in coming and doing any pilot initiative, because we talk about a lot of technologies being available or a lot of solutions being available. So would anyone like to come to any of the cities, and would they like to initiate any pilot, because that will be of benefit to them and that will be of benefit to us. So we are open to various collaborations. We've already started speaking with multiple agencies, and Karnataka has always been at the front when we speak about urban development, when we speak about adoption of technology. And we'd like to continue maintaining that edge, and we have a lot of interesting projects that are coming up, which will shortly also be announced in the budget. So we'll wait for the announcement before I get into the announcement. We'll wait for the budget before I get into the details of some of those projects. But there are a lot of opportunities at the level of the cities in Karnataka, and KUIDFC is working not only for smart cities, we are also working on many other projects across various cities. So, we'd be happy to have knowledge partnerships coming through, experience sharing coming through, and we are open to speaking. Thank you.
Excellent. Let's give a big round of applause, because just like open software and the open mind, the city is open, and that's a good sign, because they say that when a drain is closed, it starts to smell, but if it's open, the water flows and it stays fresh. And as long as we are able to be open to new ideas and to new models, I think it will build up.
I'll just add one point, if you forgive me for that, is that when we speak about each of the cities in Karnataka, our idea very clearly is that we want people to come to Karnataka. We want people to come not just to Bangalore. We want people to come to Shimoga. We want people to come to Belgaum. We want them to be in Tumkur. We want them to be part of all of our cities. And that has a twofold advantage. One is that not only are the people from outside of the state coming into our cities and exploring the hinterland of our cities, because Karnataka is a beautiful state, but it is also giving each of our cities a window to the world, where they are then becoming more open, where they understand what all is out there. So there is a lot of openness that we foresee, and when we speak about these 10 cities, each city has its own particular advantage. So have we identified that? So, you know, when we had, you know, you saying that the qualities in Denmark is, you know, trust and courage. You know, what are the qualities for each of our cities? And how are we honing those qualities? Have we started speaking about those qualities? So we already have known competitive advantage, known advantages to all of our cities, and we'd love for you to maybe explore the existing advantages that our city has and come forward, you know, with any proposals where we can leverage that and take it a step further.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Let's give a big round of applause. So now the clock tells me that we have about 12 minutes. So we will take a few questions from the audience. Can we send these mics? We just need 2 mics here, and the other 2 I will give back to you. Can you pass me? Like we said before, please stand up, introduce yourself, your name, and make the question briefly. Yes.
This is not. Yeah, Naresh from Saskin. With due respect for the Naresh from Saskin. So with due respect for the technology coming from for the wind energy and the solar energy from the German and the like companies like Suzlon, ABB, and Bosch contributing to that, are we also trying to use the seawater desalination along the coastline to actually bring in fresh water into the ecosystem of the, you know, the cities which are actually inside Karnataka?
So I try to repeat what you said. You are asking if we are looking at seawater desalination to pump the city, to pump the water from the coastal areas to Bangalore and other places, because you think there is a zero water day possibility around the corner. Okay. Who would like to answer?
To be honest, I think as far as my experience is concerned, I have not come across. See, there are a lot of projects in various cities. I think in the context of seawater, we have to talk about those cities which are, you know, near the sea, like Bombay, for example. So there are a lot of projects on water management, water treatment, water management, but nothing strikes me as of now if there is any company or any technology provider who has offered this technology and it has been taken up in any of the smart cities. I don't recall anything as of now.
I would like to just check, is Kavita here from the Israeli consul? Ma'am, you want to add something? Because you guys are the best in doing this, right? Israeli companies do. If you want to say something, wave your hand, then I come there. Otherwise,
It's the mic is here.
The mic is there. Okay, all right. Thanks, Jan. Because I know that.
Thank you for the privilege. Hello, everyone. I'm Kavita from the Israel Consulate. I work as a trade officer, connecting Israel and India technology, and it's a privilege to be here. Thank you. Talking about desalination, we have a company called IDE from Israel, and they have a plant in Chennai. It's already open? Yes, wow. It is. It's operational. Thank you.
So we meet you at coffee, sir?
Sure.
So you have to reach out to more cities.
So I'd just like to respond to the question that you asked, is that, so there will be 2 ways of looking at it. One is that, have we run out of water resources that we need to now look at seawater? And then if we have run out of water resources, is there something that can be done about that? Can we look at improving our watershed management and continuing to use our traditional sources to supply water to our coastal cities? Will be one of the thought process, and rather than, you know, run to the sea for our water requirements, you know, can we improve our systems within the existing sources that, you know, we have been using? And there is a lot of work that has gone on in that respect, say, where we are treating wastewater and we are refilling lakes with that, and whether we can treat our wastewater for industrial purposes and such and such. And coming specifically to seawater, when we look at desalination plants, given that not many cities in the country have experience in that, the point of cost effectiveness will become very pertinent in that particular respect. And to what extent are we able to extract water in terms of the efficiency and the cost effectiveness of a plant?
Okay.
And if I can just expand on the scope of the question a bit, if you can allow me, is that if you are talking about the exploitation of the coast or the sea in eco-friendly ways, one other thing which has been done well in Denmark and which we are now proposing with the MNRE in Delhi is also offshore wind. Right now, onshore wind is already a pretty big thing in the country. It's probably one of the biggest producers of wind energy. The next big thing in wind is offshore, and from what all projections are, the viability of offshore wind in terms of per unit power is multiple times of that on onshore wind. So the quantum of power which can produce offshore is much larger. So if I expand the question a bit better in terms of exploiting energy reserves offshore, that's going to be probably the next big thing which will happen in the coming decade.
Okay, just one more point I want to add. There is a panel in the afternoon. So Nicholas Bokhoff from Suez is here. They do water management, so we can take. Yes, next question.
Yeah. One more here, and I'm coming over to you. I'm Shankar, representing Aquatech. We are interested. I am Shankar representing Aquatech, and my question is: we are looking at project opportunities in PPP scope for wastewater management. That is one area. Could I get some insight into that, please?
So with respect to PPP for wastewater management, given that we have some water supply and UGT projects that we have taken up, none of them have been taken up on a PPP basis as of now. And one initiative that we had tried for drinking water supply in PPP was not very successful. So we had to go again to the government investing in the complete capital, and then we have private contractor coming in and then operating and maintaining the same though. So we are still out there looking for opportunities. The other thing is that when we had the Karnataka Cities Investor Meet, I think a very important statement that our Chief Secretary and Principal Secretary had made at that point in time is that we are open to having innovative PPP proposals, and under the Swiss challenge method, we can look at exploring some of that. So say if you have feasible proposals and you'd like to come and discuss that with us, we are very happy to have you in our office to take that forward.
Again, an open door. Thank you very much. Here's another question. I'm coming over to you. So I'm making my way up.
Thank you. My name is Manvel Alur. I represent an organization called Environmental Synergies and Development. We're an NGO. My question is, we've been talking about partnerships and ICT, and in agencies that are working in smart city programs, there are so many like you mentioned. My own experience in developing one lake in Koramangala, we had to work with 15 agencies for a 9-acre lake that is still under development. Can we use ICT to improve partnerships within these interagencies?
It'll be a simple answer, yes. And then it'll be a request open to the audience that please give us some ICT solutions to address that challenge.
Okay, so there's a business case there. Okay, I hand it over.
It's really been good keynotes has been forwarded by all panel members over here. Just my question is introducing to the ICT for sustainable cities. Considering land acquisition is a major hurdle in our projects of smart cities, doing awareness in urban and rural sectors, do the dynamic dashboards to creating awareness is a really good solution to get through it, like the projects to be viable. Yeah, dynamic dashboards which creating awareness for land acquisition, which is creating awareness in urban and rural areas.
Just get, you are from which organization? Just
I myself, Vishnu Patil,
Ah.
I'm being as a planning engineer for Shapurji Palonji Group.
Shapurji
It's-
Palonji,
It's
okay.
one of the real estate and.
So you have a lot of problems with land. Okay. So what is this dynamic platform? Wait, I
It's
didn't.
like a dynamic dashboards which creating awareness what kind of smart cities project are. Their brief introduction to the urban and rural areas.
Okay.
Where people get awareness of the projects, what kind of cities which going to be developed, what
Okay.
kind of smart city facilities they're gonna have,
Okay.
and the just like a brief ideas they can get from the dynamic dashboards.
Okay. So you're saying this should be put online?
It should be put online. It is come up with we have a Karnataka one where we have updation of Aadhaar, we have updation of our voting cards and all in Karnataka one. Like the same, they should put our dashboards in Karnataka one centers that will create an awareness of the projects which is going to be developed surround the rural area and urban areas.
Okay. It's a suggestion.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
suggestion. And is it come with the viable to do the projects viable with the ICT solution?
Okay. Another business case. Okay.
So a hand over here, is that, or you want to answer?
I would take that more as a suggestion than a question. And given that incomplete or lack of information is a major challenge that many of us face within our own organizations and across organizations, and it is also something that becomes a point of concern between the public and the government interaction. I think the point is very well taken, where we need to have more information out there and more attractive information available to the people. However, I cannot quantify immediately on the specific suggestion, but your suggestion is very well taken.
Yeah, just to add quickly, I think you said it right, Charu. I think there is one of the verticals under smart cities called e-governance and services. So this will fall in under that.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is Praveen from Ikaga Technology. We work on IoT and smart home space. Ikaga Technology. So, question to ma'am that if there is some pilot we want to do, what is the best way we should reach out to you or the organization? And the very second question to it is like we're talking about the smart cities, but if there are some pilot which is required for, let's say, rural schools or rural Anganwadi, what is the way forward for that?
With respect to having solutions, what I would request is that if you have a particular solution, I would request you to identify which city you would like to do that in, because we have multiple levels of cities. So we have a town panchayat, and we have a town council, and we have a CMC, we have a corporation, and we have BBMP. So with respect to your readiness and your willingness, where you would like to do your pilot, if you can come to us readily with that information, that would be helpful. And you can always get in touch with my office, and we can put you in touch with urban local bodies for you to try that out. And we'd be happy to see what suggestion or solution that you have. So that would be one, and we can exchange our contact off the stage. And coming to the second, where you said with respect to rural, so with respect to rural, you can get in touch with the rural development department if you have specific solutions for schools and Anganwadis. However, more than the rural development department, you'll have an education department, and then you have a women and child department. So you can speak specifically with them in the rural context, but in the urban context, if you would like for us to help you leverage, it is much easier in the urban context to leverage across these departments.
So thank you very much. It was a wonderful session. Thank you to all the panelists. I think we come a little bit in front to take a photograph. Please give a round of applause. Thank you, ma'am, for your wonderful participation, for being here. This shows that our leaders are really interested to do a lot of things for our... Thank you. Thank you again.